There you go. The way you moved your numbers, though, is a little confusing. Stop, start it over. Okay, good morning, everybody. The time is 9:01. Calling this special called meeting, the B County Commissioners Court, to order. Today is Monday, September 27, 2021, at 9 a.m. We're physically located at B County Courthouse, Commissioners Courtroom, number 110, 105 West Corpus Christi Street, Beeville, Texas, 78102. That was the call to order. If everybody would please stand and join Mr. Willow. You have a prayer for us this morning, sir?
Sure.
Thank you.
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Please go before us today and every day this week. When we face challenges, help us remember all things you've brought us through in the past. Help us trust that you have not brought us this far to fail or abandon us now. Please help us be strong in your power and might, and help us walk confidently in your truth, so we may have faith without fear, trust without hesitation, calmness in the face of stress, and your peace no matter what we face. Also be with the commissioners today in their judgment. We ask all things in God's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Wonderful. Thank you. We have many visitors in the audience today. Thank you all for being here. Now, I've said this before, I'm going to try it again. If there's anybody that would just like to identify themselves for the court but doesn't want to make a public comment, I give you the opportunity to do so at this time. If you want to make a public comment, we've got an agenda item for that. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments at that time. But if anybody would just like to identify who they are for the court on the record, this is the opportunity for anyone to do that. And if nobody wants to do that, that's fine too. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Please keep coming back. Moving on. Agenda item number 5, Commissioner's Court opening remarks. Commissioner Haggard.
Well, it's been kind of a quiet week, or month actually, 2 weeks. Had a little issues with, there's still some more illegal dumping there on 628. Have met with Robbie and the Sheriff's Department, and they're following through on that. Other than that, it's just been looking around at the roads and down Corrigan. There was a cleanup this weekend in Corrigan. I unfortunately was out of town and didn't quite make it back in time to watch them. Mr. Gonzalez did a very, very great job was done over there cleaning up Corrigan again. Somehow or another, once you clean it up, this seems to be, oh, somebody will clean this up. Let me throw some more out. So this becomes a natural habit. Looking at some drainage issues still there on 610 and around Corrigan. Did some cleanup around in there. So other than that, just been normal calls and everything else. Commissioner?
Judge, Commissioners, I had one call, and Road and Bridge took care of it. It was a right-of-way issue and county, where the county road ends, and they wanted to go onto the property, and some of the property owners were, but Mr. Gonzalez took care of that over there, so that was my biggest call for last week. Thank you, Ray. Update on the elections building, it's still moving along. No emergency doors, no handicap doors yet are available, so that building is coming along real well. They're about to start to move back right this morning.
They've already started, sir.
All right. The ambulance building, we've got several bids in to remediate the mold issues there when there was that big leak there, so we should have the final bid in this afternoon or tomorrow. And nothing new on the tax office building where it leaked on the big range over there. So that was my week.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner DeWitt.
Thanks, gentlemen. A couple of interesting things. Everybody knows we've moved the collection station from Normanna to Mineral. And we had problems at Mineral on the first go-around whenever TCEQ said we didn't own the property. It took us several months to get that taken care of. Well, now we've run into another problem on 0.337 acres right across the highway that we own. Turns out somebody else owns it also. Well, you can't adverse possess government property. And adverse possess means, okay, I've been paying taxes on this, it's in my deed, it's mine after so many years. Well, if it belongs to the government, it doesn't work. the government never gets rid of their property. So, Mr. Gonzalez had a meeting with the purported landowner, compared deeds. He agreed, yeah, it's not his, he's going back to his title company. But what has occurred in the meantime, the reason it came up, we were doing some improvements to the property to prepared and to make sure that the folks from Pawnee can use it for their school bus and their kiddos, and their mom and dads can pick up their kids on that side of the highway where it's safe. And he said, we need that tree back because I'm gonna get paid by Orsted, the wind farm people, for the tree. We said, it's not your tree, it's our tree. And it is our tree, and I have gotten with Orsted, and it's on the agenda later. Time is of the essence of what's happening. They're in the process of moving those large blades for the wind farm through mineral. It's imminent, it's gonna happen real soon. There's not really time for us to get in negotiations with them. We've worked something out, and we'll discuss it in detail when we get to that agenda item. But that's, to my knowledge, that's the only two parcels we own in mineral. The rest of it is under Highway 673. It was petitioned, it was cut when the state went in 30s and 40s and put in farm market roads where there had been county roads. So once we get this taken care of, which it's done, we should be in pretty good shape in mineral. It's been interesting, such a small piece of property, we've had so many questions that came up, but they've all been resolved in our favor. The other thing I'd like to talk about is cornmeal. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, this is supposed to be something germane to Precinct 2, and we're going to talk about cornmeal. Several months ago, we had some specialists come down and look at our oak trees in Precinct 2 for oak wilt. They couldn't make a final determination. They took samples back to A&M, did some testing, no final determination was made. In the meantime, I was listening to a gardening show several weeks ago, and they were talking about oak wilt. And they got to talking about using cornmeal for oak wilt. I did some research. There's a bacteria that's created called trichoderma, which is antifungal, it's antibacterial with cornmeal. Okay, the best type of cornmeal you use is agricultural cornmeal. Where do you get it? You can't get it to feed stores. I've tried, but the local nursery here, Zimmer's Nursery, has it. What they recommend you do is mix a big handful of cornmeal and 5 gallons of water. Mix it up. Let it sit 24 hours, then pour it out in the root line, the drip line of the oak tree. What happens sometimes to oak trees, let's just call it a bad fungus or a bad bacteria gets in the soil and starts affecting the tree and decreases its vitality. This particular trichoderma bacteria kills the bad bacteria. It's antifungal, and it helps the oak tree. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work or it's not going to work, but they were recommended to the folks they were talking to. It's a cheap way to try to save your oak trees. I'm doing it on one of mine. It looks pretty sad. We'll see what happens. And as a sidelight to that, being antifungal and antibacterial, they say that when you make this tea up, if you have athlete's foot or fungus on your toes or whatever, soak them in there. It also kills all that. And it's a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot safer than going down to the drugstore and buying this high-priced chemicals that you use. So I'll end my talk about cornmeal, but it is germane to the. Thank you.
I had a few things going on. We had recently gone out and mowed there in Blueberry Hill on Yarsway and Lehman Drive. The grass was horrible. And then the Saturday before last, we went out and cleaned it all up, picked up all the trash down those 3 streets. Oak Drive in South Tyler, Adams and East Kennedy, and Kinko Lane in 1349. They were a really, really bad spot for a possible major accident to happen, and so I went and cleaned up those corners. And talked to Ray about some brush pickup in Blueberry Hill, and he got that taken care of, and they're still working on that. Thank you, Ray. Another guy in Blueberry Hill was upset because his brush didn't get picked up, so he called me and I talked to Ray about it. But if you're clearing land and you have fence posts and bigger trees and wire and whatnot, the county's not going to pick it up. Okay, so I talked to him and we decided that we're not in the city limits. We we had water supply, so we just had a big bonfire Friday night. Got that taken care of. And it worked. Now you go through it and you can take the wire out and you can scrape the ash into a jar and great fertilizer. And then yesterday, that corner lot on Madison and Stamper grass was that tall, if not taller, so I went and took care of that. So that's about it.
Thank you all. I was out last couple, weeks, with COVID. I appreciate Commissioner Witt handling, running, the last meeting. And I'd like to make an apology on my misunderstanding of the agenda item. There's lots of excuses that I could come up with, but I really don't like making excuses. So I just wanted to give a straight apology for the confusion. It was all on my part. So moving on, public comment. I do have, before we go forward with public comment, I do notice I have been presented 3 forms, D County Commissioners Court Public Participation Forms for agenda item number 16. What I'm going to do, unless there's a strong objection from many members of the court, I'm going to have these 3 in the agenda items rather than confining their comments to public comment. I'm going to bit additional time than we otherwise would during public comment. That doesn't mean I'm going to give them an open forum to speak ad nauseum, but I do want to provide these 3 individuals with the opportunity to address the court during that agenda item. Hearing no strong vocal objection to that, I'll move forward with public comment. Aside from the 3 individuals, and I'll read y'all's names out just so that we're all on the same page. I have Laura Presley, Austin Brown, and Jimmy Hunt. Is there anybody else besides those 3 individuals that would like to address the court at this public comment agenda? Yes, ma'am. And when you do, I forget about it because I know most everybody's names. Please identify yourself first and last name before you start speaking for the record.
Laura Warner, Judge and Commissioners, good morning. I just wanted to thank y'all so much for the prompt response into the building. It looks great. We've got the doors are in. They just haven't hooked them up yet. So
Okay.
those are done. Thank y'all very, very much. When you get an opportunity, we're in the process of moving. It's kind of a mess right now, but as soon as I get it done, we're having our first publicly open house, I could say, is on October the 6th at 10 a.m. That's logic and accuracy testing. So if you get an opportunity, please come by and see the building. But I want to extend a tremendous thank you to the maintenance department, both for helping us move out and helping us get the heavy stuff out. I would like to thank them very much, and I'd like to thank the court for y'all's help in getting the building together.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else who'd like to make a public comment? Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 7. The following items are of an administrative nature. Commissioners Court has been furnished documentation on each item, and all such items may be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by a commissioner or county judge.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and second to approve. Any further discussion?
I have my August financials attached.
Please.
You want to go to page 5, which is my revenue. You can see kind of where we stand. We're getting to the end of our fiscal year, and it looks like we're on track for our revenues and our expenditures, which is a couple of pages before. Is there any questions?
I don't think so. There was quite a few transfers in last minute moving around between various departments.
Yes. This is the last Commissioner's Court that I could do budget amendments, which is certify any additional revenues that we were going to be using. LITs I can still do into the new year, but we did try to do what we could. So yes, there was an explanation.
And we had one department move money from group medical, that's out of this, not the coming year, out of this year.
Current, yes, and
Okay.
that's the district attorney,
Right.
which has a little, okay, yes.
And is that, and that's a great point, because I saw that too, and I wondered, is that an issue that in successive fiscal years, is that an annual subscription cost? Because it looked like it was, it's not?
No, this is for, the reason they moved money was because of a software that, the assistant,
Mhm.
requested in the 11th hour. And so that was the solution that I, gave to Ms. Pinnick.
But it's a one-time?
It is a
No,
one-time.
okay,
Yes.
when I read, I thought it was an annual.
No, it isn't,
Okay.
because we would have budgeted, but that was
Makes
my
me much more
suggestion.
comfortable with that. I don't know.
Yes, no, we did talk about that, but that is not on the normal, no, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on, discuss and consider action on the following items. I'd like to thank Commissioner DeWitt for bringing this to my attention, and it's a great idea, so we're gonna follow it. I am going to move agenda items 22 and 23 to the top of the list. We have a great group of 4-H students and their sponsors here today. And while I encourage you all to stay throughout the entire Commissioners Court meeting, this is going to be an interesting one. I understand that you may have school and other obligations that you have to go to. So we're going to start with agenda item number 22, approved proclamation proclaiming October 3 to 9, 2021 as National 4-H Week. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. Thank you. Now, I'd like to make, wonderful.
Good morning, Judge Morrell and Commissioners. Whereas the B County Commissioners Court is proud to honor the 4-H Youth Development Program of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service for 114 years of providing experience-based education to youngsters throughout the Lone Star State. And whereas this admirable program, which seeks to provide a learning experience for the whole child, including head, heart, hands, and health, helps young Texans to acquire knowledge, develop life skills, and form attitudes to enable them to become self-directed, productive, and contributing members of our society. And whereas it's more than 550,000 urban, suburban, and rural youth participants, ranging in age from 8 to 19, hail from diverse ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds, and truly represent a cross-section of the state. And whereas the program undoubtedly could not have achieved the success that it has today were it not for the service of its more than 22,000 volunteers who have given generously of their time, talent, energies, and resources to the youth of Texas. And whereas throughout its proud history, the 4-H program has developed positive role models for countless Texans, and through its innovative and inspiring programs, continues to build character to instill the values that have made our state strong and great. Now therefore be it resolved, the B County Commissioners Court hereby designated October 3rd through the 9th, 2021 as National 4-H Week in Texas, and commend the 4-H Youth Development Program of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service and the many men and women who have made it a program a success.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Well done. And would you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, Addie Brown.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes with exception. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you again, Ms. Brown. Agenda item number 23, approved B County 4-H request to fly 4-H flag at the Justice Center in honor of National 4-H Week. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve the question.
Sure. I have a motion. Do I have a second? A motion and a second. Commissioner DeWitt?
How long do you want to fly said flag? How many weeks?
During the National 4-H Week, so October 3rd through the 9th.
Okay, my motion then says October 3rd through the 9th, to allow that to happen.
I'll, amend my second.
Thank you both. Is there a presentation that 4-H would like to make on this agenda item?
No, sir, but can we get a quick picture?
Of course you can.
Let us get pretty here.
We'll get the makeup person in here. Yeah, that's no problem.
I'll do that.
We need one now. It's a big group.
Yeah, you stand right here.
Get on your knees, right?
Yeah. Y'all are all taller than I am, too. Come on. Never sure which one is supposed to be. Very good. Good job.
I think so. Did you hear it too?
We have one other reasonable request to adjust the agenda. We're going to move agenda, I'm going to call agenda item number 21 next. Agenda item number 21, approve and set the 2021 sheriff and constable fees per Texas Local Government Code, section 118.131. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve?
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Ms. Gonzalez, do you have a presentation? Is there anything you'd like to?
No, just needed to get this approved. It's something that I have to report to the comptroller, before the first, so just needed y'all's blessing so that way I can make sure we're in compliance.
Thank you for getting it on. the
Yes,
agenda.
and thank y'all for moving my agenda item. My daughter's getting fitted for her wedding dress this morning, so
So you
I have
probably
to
won't
be
be
there.
staying for the rest of the meeting.
You are excused.
Thank you.
All right, now back to our regularly scheduled agenda. Agenda item number 8, presentation on CM company auctions about the sale of such items as law enforcement vehicles and items that have been declared surplus, given by Nadia Stevens, South Texas sales representative.
Good morning. Thank you for letting us approach. I'm Greg Chittum with CM Company Auctions. My field representative is Nadia Stevens. We're here today to talk to you about your equipment, your surplus equipment from county yards, or from the courthouse. We also do sheriff seizures, forfeited vehicles. We can do the whole thing for you. We do all the cataloging, the logistics. We arrange transportation. We set the sale date. We don't ask you to catalog anything. We do it all for you, get it in our online catalog, and then we bring you the funds when that sale is completed. And we'd like to talk to you today about getting that, maybe getting where we can service your departments and take that stress off of your commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
We left you a few things to look at.
What we've been doing recently is using gov deals to list our property with pictures and all. Do you feel like that y'all's truck and y'all's, the way of doing it is better than that?
I sell items that people buy on gov deals. So our thing is to achieve the market. And one of the ways that you achieve the market is we feel like we're very effective marketers. And one of the things in marketing is accurate descriptions and taking care of it. We're not asking your people to do it. If you know something about that equipment, if you just put a new motor in, if it's something that's not visible, that where we can see, we ask your input on that. But as far as describing the out to the marketplace, we have 15,000 registered bidders, and we'd love to get that in. We have a real shortage on equipment right now, and we can make it make a market. And what I was talking about with government deals, gov deals, is we have people, customers of our, and then consign it to us to put it out on our. But an auction is an auction. So sometimes things don't bring as good as, the market's funny. But we are going to work hard to put it out there to that environment.
I know periodically we'll have a sheriff's sale of seized vehicles, and that's something that you would totally
We
handle.
do them all the time.
Sheriff's office wouldn't have to fool with it.
They don't have to fool with it. And it's all online. It's all digital. They have 2 weeks. Normally we do about a 2-week preview and then open the auction for 5 days. And so it gives a lot of people the time to do it. Also, we sell for a number of other sheriff's offices in county, so we push it to all them. So we have a big following, and I think we could really help you out and take some of that stress off of it.
And if we were to enter into a contract, it wouldn't be exclusive. We could still utilize the others if we wanted to.
This is our deal. It's not that big a deal if you enter into a contract with me. If you don't like us, you don't have to use us. We're not gonna lock you in a year. We're gonna if we do anything, it's just for that auction. And if you want to continue that contract, that's fine. But if you don't like our services, we're not like some of these other auction companies. I hear this all the time. Well, we're in a contract. Well, for how long? We don't know. You're in our deal is if you're not satisfied, we don't want you to keep using us. We want to satisfy you. We want to make you a customer.
Your 10% pretty much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you have bigger items, that, you know, it's up into over 50,000 or 100,000, we'll work with you. We'll always work with you on what we do. Our contract is not set in stone, it's set in stone for that auction. So if we have precinct 3 that has surplus equipment, it's for that auction that we're setting up. If you want to continue that contract, that's okay. But if you're not satisfied, we understand.
Madam Auditor, do you have any angst about us entering into an agreement with these folks?
Not if it doesn't, if it doesn't hold us, just like what he, just mentioned. I don't have a problem. I don't know if the sheriff's office has issues. I mean, because I know that they have a bigger auction.
Where is the auction company right now? I mean, if we weren't happy to listen to them, I haven't.
We'd love to be able to help you. We're from Texas. I am a Texas licensed auctioneer. We currently carry 5 motor vehicle licenses. Take that stress off as well if you transfer a vehicle. If we sell a vehicle for you and it's involved in an accident, we have the information on that vehicle where it tracks it, so it's not coming back to your department. Same way with all your equipment. Everything will have a paper trail. So if somebody says, well, I'm gonna sue you because of that piece of equipment, no, it came through an auction. They signed up on a deal.
Judge, I'd make a motion to approve. It gives us, consider an action item? Okay, it's just a discussion.
Just a discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have one other question, Madam Auditor, are they one of these that have to be registered with one of our, like, most of our?
Bid board or-
Well, this
Bible
isn't
type deal
this
and-
isn't a co-op
Okay.
situation. I believe it's just if we have a project for them to work on, then that would be per project, just like you were explaining, right? It would be on a per project.
Right, right.
So it would just depend if, you know, a project came up that we could utilize them, but I don't think there's any discussion item.
I really appreciate you coming in, this morning, and it's definitely something I think you've received a lot of positive, and I think the general consensus here is we're always interested in working not only with other local Texas businesses, but trying to see what might work best for the county. So what we'll do is when we have an opportunity come up, we'll try to reach out to you at that time and definitely keep you in the loop and see how it goes. And so hopefully someday soon we'll be giving you a call and trying to work out an opportunity to do some business with us.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
One thing I'd recommend y'all do is give a copy of your literature to our road and bridge administrator and our sheriff while you're here, and they'll already have that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Moving on, agenda item number 9, approve resolution nominating members to serve on the P County Appraisal District Board of Directors. We have we went through this not too long ago, and if I'm reading the correspondence from the appraisal board correctly, there are 4 active members, and, do we have members from the appraisal district present? Oh, no, this is your recommendation. We went through this previously, and apparently there's only 4 voting members on the appraisal district, and they need a additional recommendation. That's how I interpret the proposed resolution and the cover letter. So at this point in time, I'd open the floor to nominations.
Judge, 2 names were given to me to look at, is Sid Hall and a fellow named Ed Polacic. I think Polacic may be in Commissioner Hager's.
Mr. Velazquez is in my district.
But Mr. Hall had been on the board previously and had to drop out for reasons, something was coming before the board and he couldn't be there. And from what I understand, I have not talked to him, he's willing to get back on the board. He has a lot of experience.
Okay. Is there any other nominations?
I think the only other one I had was, Mr. Mingers. There's 2 of them there. I can't remember which one I'm talking about.
Oh,
I can't remember which one, but one of the Mingers, I can only assess it to be the one that didn't wreck his helicopter. He's, with the fire department. I think they're both.
Thomas?
Thomas Mingers, that's the one, yes. Thomas said, it had an issue with wanting to be, wanting to be one of the members along with Mr. Palaka.
I can't find thought maybe I could find your text message.
I was almost thinking the way it was worded is that we needed to look at those four, because we have a guy on there that, I think one of them's term ends in December.
Amy's just got
We
on.
just
Well,
appointed her.
okay, but one of them went into
Oh, and that expired term.
unexpired term
Hmm.
of the two that we just put on. I do not have that in front of me, Judge. So, time critical.
Well,
Yeah, it's probably 15.
so we've got two, and Commissioner Haggard, do you nominate one of the Mingers?
Thomas Mingers,
Thomas Mingers?
And Mr. Plastic's also here.
Mr. Palaka, Edward Palaka. I believe he's in the appraisal board already. He's one of the members of the appraisal.
Okay.
Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I think any one of the three would be excellent, members, and we can do what we did last time, we can, nominate them all, and then let the appraisal district, board make their determination.
I think that's a good plan, so.
Yes. Okay, do I have a motion to close nominations?
Motion closed.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. So we have a, 3 nominations, and, I guess at this point, I'd entertain a motion to, approve the resolution that was provided, suggesting Sid Hall, Ed Velasic, and Thomas Mingers as, 3 options for the appraisal district to consider in appointing to the B County Appraisal District.
I'll make that motion to appoint, to recommend those 3 people to the appraisal district.
Thank you. I have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor, please. Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. And to Mr. Hall, Mr. Plastic, and Mr. Mingers, thank you for your willingness, hopefully, your willingness to serve. Agenda item number 10, approve library agreement between Joe Barnhart, B County Library, and B County. The agreement was in the document. Do I have a motion to approve in the packet?
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there somebody from the library here this morning that would like to address the court? Okay, well, then in the absence of that, I'll say that, B County continues to stand firmly behind Joe Barnhart Foundation and our wonderful B County Library. We're so fortunate as a small community to have such a wonderful resource, and I look forward in the future to seeing our other local, taxing jurisdictions increase their, commitment to this fine and wonderful resource.
I might add, sir, that that's 2 contributions, one to the law library and one to the regular library. So
Yes, sir.
It is sizable.
Yes, sir, yeah, $85,000.
85 and 10.
85 and 10.
Sorry, 95, yeah. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Agenda item number 11, approve interlocal agreement between B County and Live Oak County for the Texas Indigent Defense Commission, TIDC, Regional Public Defender Program. This is housekeeping for the next 4 or 5 agenda items. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 12, approve interlocal agreement between B County and Mcmullen County for the TIDC Regional Public Defender Program.
Move to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Agenda item number 13, approve interlocal agreement between B County and Willacy County for the TIDC Regional Public Defender Program.
Move to approve is presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Agenda item number 14, approve interlocal agreement between B County and Refugio County for the TIDC Regional Public Defender Program.
Move to approve is presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wait.
Aye.
Aye. I'm gonna say, I couldn't say passes without exception if it was only one
It's
vote.
just one of us, right on time.
Motion passes without
Say it
exception.
louder next time.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay, and, it's a wonderful program, and, our regional public defender is doing an excellent job for us and all the courts, that they serve. Moving on, agenda item number 15, approved expo request for arena fee waiver from B County 4-H Horse Club for the B County Junior Livestock Homemakers Show Play Day and Clinic on October 2nd, 2021, and on November 13th, 2021.
Motion. Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Do we have anybody from, yes, ma'am? If you'd like to.
Sure.
I want to give you the opportunity to.
Yes. Good morning, I'm Sally Sayer. So, discussing about the fee waiver. I just want to let y'all know that we had that first play date of the series, and we had a really good turnout. It went great, and so we appreciate that, and we look forward to the next two.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
ma'am. Thank you for everything y'all do for the youth of B County.
Yes, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 16, approved resolution to adopt Hart Intercivic Verity Duo paper tracking voting machines, Duo with access and Duo scan, to be used in all early voting election day polling locations in all B County elections. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
And I'd like to read this into the record, sir, the resolution.
You may.
B County resolution to adopt Hart Intercivic Verity Duo, Duo with access, and Duo scan to be used in all early voting and election day polling locations in all county elections. Whereas, the 87th legislative session passed Senate Bill 598, adding section 129.003 to the Texas Election Code. This addition, titled Paper Audit Trail Required, establishes that voting machines must, quote, use, create, or display a paper record that may be read by the voter and is not capable of being connected to the internet or any other computer network or electronic device. And whereas section 129.03 E1 of the Texas Election Code states E, an authority that purchased a voting system other than an auditable voting system after September 1, 2014 and before September 1, 2021 may use available federal funding, and if federal funding is not available, available state funding to convert the purchased voting system into an auditable voting system in accordance with the following schedule. 1, if the voting system was converted into an auditable voting system not later than the election taking place November 8, 2022, the authority is eligible to have one conversion reimbursed under the section. And whereas the B County Commissioners Court finds it most beneficial to all B County residents if the county adheres to the voting system conversion deadline of November 8, 2022, in order to preserve funds in the B County budget by utilizing federal or state funding available in counties eligible for 100% of the cost of conversion reimbursed. And whereas the B County Commissioners Court considers meeting the voting needs of all B County residents through adherence to the newly established legal requirements an utmost priority and has determined that the upgrade to a new paper-based voting system is necessary. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Commissioners Court of B County, Texas hereby adopts the Hart Intercivic Verity Duo, Duo with access, and Duo scan to be used in all early voting and election day polling locations in all county elections with implementation pending receipt, verification, and certification of equipment.
Thank you, Commissioner DeWitt. Yes, sir. Mr. Brown, as the de facto leader of this group,
I'm sorry, I'm having a little hard time hearing you, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. I wanted to give you the opportunity to have the three speakers speak in the turn that you would decide. I have you, I have Mr. Hunt, and I have Ms. Presley.
Okay.
How would you like to proceed?
I will go first, and then followed by Mrs. Presley, and then after that, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, you have the floor.
Okay. My name is Austin Brown. I have consistently advocated before this court, probably 5 or 6 times, for the restoration of precinct voting in hand-marked, hand-counted, and hand-tabulated votes. There is no part of any law that makes this method of voting unlawful. No one asking for this method of voting has asked the court to do anything unlawful. Today, item 16 proposes to adopt the Hart Intercivic, Ability Duo, and Access and Dual Scan to be used in all early voting and election day polling locations in B County elections. The Senate Bill 598 urges the update of the current version of Hart Intercivic that was purchased in 2018 by this court. As it is assumed that the current version of Hart Intercivic is not auditable system. They're saying change it because what we have now is not auditable. Did you know that? To qualify for federal or state funding for the upgrade, the current system must be converted to an auditable system by November 2022. The new law does not assure that the system conversion by Hart will in all ways be auditable. I have recently made an open records request for a list of items associated with the current system that have been partially fulfilled. The data received from the open records request appears to need some supplement to be completely responsive to the request, but I sincerely thank Mrs. Warnick for her diligence in delivering a good faith effort to fulfill the request. Now, on August the 13th, 2018, 2018, the court agenda included, among other items, the approval of a bid for replacing a roof at the B County Expo Center, followed by a presentation by a Hart representative showing the court the Hart Verity system, followed immediately by a vote to approve the Verity Master Agreement to purchase the Hart system. While unlike the Expo Center roof, which was a choice between 5 alternatives considered, there was no evidence of any comparison of feature and benefit versus cost for competitive election systems. Today, there continues to be questions about the current version of Hart, about whether the decision to close 27 precincts between 2016 and 2020 was heard before the public, what the presumed Hart conversion cost will be, whether the conversion cost will qualify for reimbursement, what is the necessary lead time for delivery, installation, training, and certification, and finally, why, with a deadline of over 13 months away, is there a rush to approve this course of action when this information and answers to these questions has not been made a part of the record? Therefore, I ask you to table this item pending more information, investigation, notice, and disclosure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Presley?
Your microphone or just?
You just, yeah,
I need
no,
to
just
project,
speak in,
okay.
and don't forget to identify yourself for the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
Dr. Laura Presley, and I'd like to hand these out. Can you pass these down?
Sure thing.
Let me just keep 2 of them. And these. Thank you very much.
Always makes me feel like I'm back in school.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Laura Presley, and I'm the principal of True Texas Elections. And upon the request of the concerned citizens of Beeville County, I evaluated an open records request of the election. I want to thank this board for the information that she forwarded to them and they sent to me. What I have for you is a preliminary report of what I call an audit of the election voting records. This was in 2020, we had a presidential election. The election records are to be stored for 22 months. I think everybody agrees with that. And so what I have listed here are records that were not produced, although they were requested, and the statutes, the Texas Election Code, that each of these records falls under. So let me just kind of go through this really quick. First of all, all elections should be auditable. I think there's no question about that. And there are election records defined by the election code that have to be retained so you can audit the election. And these are the records we requested and the ones that were not produced. Copies of the front and back of the election day polling locations, envelopes 1 and 3, were requested and they were not produced. And you can see the election code that refers to those. Number 2, a complete early vote electronic media, the memory cards that have all the ballots on them, the electronic ballots, chain of custody, that's consistent with Texas Election Code 129.051B, were requested but not produced. And what that is, the memory sticks have to be, there has to be a chain of custody process and documentation from the moment they're pulled from storage to being programmed, to go into the polls, to come into the central count, and going back to storage. That's required by the election code. We requested that. Chain of custody procedure was not produced. The election day zero tapes, there were 3 out of the 6 locations that were defective. 1 was not signed. This is a zero tape showing no zeros on any of the machines before voting starts on election day. One tape wasn't signed, 1 had a date missing of when it was supposed to be printed, and the controller ID was missing on the 3rd one. So half of them were defective. The absentee ballots are supposed to be started with the number 1. It's Texas Election Code 52.062. For some reason, B County started with 351. Where were ballots 1 through 350? The code says start with 1. That was not, the ballot number 1 through 350 was requested. Were those ballots where they were supposed to be assigned? That was not produced. The precinct level results tapes, when you get the election results, when the polls close and when it's canvassed, you see the results by precinct. And that's because we have to have record of who votes and how to petition our redistricting. The votes have to be reported by precinct. There's no way to audit the canvassed precinct results back to the results tapes, because the results tapes from the Hart Intercivic tapes were not by precinct. They were just summary tapes of that location. So there's no way to audit the precinct level results. That's a big issue. The counting station audit logs compliant to 81.62 in the administrative code says that the audit log, and you've got a record there, that documentation I gave you, of what audit logs are. Audit logs are there to audit the election. And when you can't audit precinct by precinct results, that's an issue. And the audit logs that were produced to us do not have precinct level data. And they're supposed to have precinct level data according to 81.62 of the administrative code. The logic and accuracy test that was done before tabulation started in November, on election night on November 3rd, 2020. That date was removed from the record. We requested that, we asked for that to be produced. For some reason, the date the record was printed was fuzzed out on every page. That's a little concerning because that's a government document, should not be altered. The audit log shows 2 very concerning issues with regard to activities on election day. The first one is there were multiple login failures on November 3rd. The second issue is the audit log shows 2 different device IDs accessing the system. Only 1 server in B County was purchased. There was a different device ID accessing the system on 11/3, and then another device on 9/14 when this open records request was done. That is very concerning because the county only purchased one server. Why are there two device IDs accessing the audit log system? So this is a preliminary report. Some of the records that were not produced, we're going to go back and ask again and see where they are, and ask for the ones that are defective. Like, for example, the date's been buzzed out and we can't read the date on every page of the logic and accuracy test needs to be produced with the date. So we wanted you to see this, and this is preliminary. I'm going to do a much larger report once we get the rest of the data back. And I'd like you really to consider and ask some questions about this before you proceed with this, this vote. I think these questions need to be asked and need to be answered. You know, it's interesting that you noted, Commissioner DeWitt, that we want to follow the law, the election code of Senate Bill 598. We've got multiple election codes that looks like there's issues with here in Beeville County. So there's a lot of things we have to go think about and address. And so I'm here to help. And no county's doing it perfectly. I'll be honest with you. Nobody is. So the best thing, you know, the way to look at this is a good thing. If you don't know what the issues are, we don't know what to fix, and we don't know what questions to ask. At my heart, I'm an engineer. And the more that we know what the root cause of a problem is, the more we can address it. And people can have complete faith in the elections. But I'll tell you what, when we're not following the law to the letter on elections, and we can't find the records that we need to audit the election, there's concern. Okay, any questions?
Yes, Dr. Presley, just real quick, with respect to these issues that you've raised today, have you previously had the opportunity to address them directly with Ms. Warnick?
No, I finished the analysis at 2 this morning.
Okay,
I'm
I just wanted to
serious.
make
We just got the
sure.
report, I think, late last week,
Mhm.
and this got put on the agenda really quick, and so we were hoping to be able to do that and then, you know, come and bring it to y'all, but it just, since this got put on the agenda so quickly, we just felt like it was important to get it on the record.
Yes, ma'am, no,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And she's opened her door to have conversations.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say,
I'm
hopefully
happy
you
to
go
do
back,
that.
yeah.
And like I said, no county in the state's doing it perfectly. I think I have my favorite county is probably Rockwall. Put that on the record.
That
they
hurts.
do I'm sorry, I'm
I'm
sorry.
happy for Rockwall,
I
but-
love Rockwall. Rockwall County probably is the best in the state out of 254. And they are, Chris Lynch is an amazing election administrator. He's been doing it a long time. And,
The only other
Yeah.
comment I would have, Dr. Presley, and we've discussed this before, at least with respect to Texas Election Code 52.062, you and I have a fundamental disagreement
not on the absentee, I don't think we do.
on the absentee.
On the absentee paper,
Oh, okay.
it should start at 1, Judge.
Okay, maybe I misread
Yeah,
that.
I have it right there. It says, electronic ballot is the absentee ballot, is the fourth one down.
Mhm. Yeah,
Started
that was the one I saw. I
Start
know
with
that we talked about
351.
that
Why
before.
on earth the county would start at 351? Where's 1 through 350? Where's 1 through 350? Okay, you're not supposed to do that. It's like, that's a blatant, I don't know what happened there.
Sure, well,
Yeah.
and hopefully given the opportunity to respond to, you know, and figure this out, we'll come up with acceptable answers
And what we
to you and to the.
And what we do disagree with is that the electronic ballot should be numbered somehow, some way. Maybe that's how you and I would disagree on
Right,
that.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right,
But the absentee, we should all agree they should start at 1.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, that was surprising to me.
Any other discussion or questions for Dr. Presley? Anything
Okay.
further, Dr. Presley?
No, I'm grateful. Thank you.
No, we're grateful for you. Thank you for coming down and addressing the court this morning. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Commissioners, for letting me have this time to speak. My name is Jimmy Hunt. I'm from Tynan, Texas, and lived here in Beeville for a very long time before that. I've been watching all of this, and, you know, the human mind, when you go to vote and you go to put something in there, you go push the button, you do whatever you're gonna do, you don't know if it really did what you want it to do. But if we can satisfy our minds, then we let our guard down. And if we get a paper printed out saying that we voted for that, when we did that, we're fine with it. We leave. We never know if it really did that because we're satisfied and we'll never look into it again. That's the problem that I have with the voting machine. It says that I voted for that, but I have no way of checking that I voted for that or comparing it to anything else. I know that's kind of the secrecy of voting. But if you can get somebody to be satisfied with what they've done by pulling the lever, the older people know, then you think you've done something right. What we want is to get the confidence back that what we did and what we voted for is what we voted for. And we're not calling out anybody. We have not, we have not said that anybody is doing anything wrong, but it's the confidence that we need. And this has to be done right. We've got these issues that have come up and we don't have, we have a long time before it has to be done. And I don't think that we need to make a quick decision on any of that. And let's sit down and talk about it some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Just before Ms. Warnings goes, in the interest, and I know we don't have any other public participation forms, but I don't want the proponents against this request to leave here saying that they didn't have a full opportunity to be heard. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address the court at this point in time with respect to agenda item number 16? Oh, yes, ma'am. Please come forward. Thank you. And don't forget to identify yourself for the record.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come up here and speak for just a moment. My name is Kathy Bazan. I'm up here, I'm listening to everything that everyone has to say. I did listen to what y'all were reading about. To me, it seems like this might have something to do with funding. That maybe we've already got this, we need to use these machines that we have. I'm just here to tell y'all, as just a citizen on the street, I want a paper ballot. Now, I know there's a lot of me out there. There's a lot of people who feel the same way. I want to go into a voting system. I want to pick up my pencil like I've done in the past, and I want to be able to vote, and I want to be able to go back and look at that paper ballot to check and see, yeah, that's the right one. Okay. And take my time. I don't like a machine that says, oh, I got your number, okay, I got your name, here, you voted, you punched the button. I want a paper ballot. I want to do what I was doing, I want to touch it. I don't like a credit card, where I stick it in there and pay for my items. I want the money. I want the dollar bills. I want to see it. I want to count it myself. There are a lot of me out there. I may only be one person in here, but I can guarantee I'm a woman. I go to Walmart, talk to everybody in there. They all talk to me, and we discuss it. And we know that's what we want to do. My family as well. They tell me the same thing. Kathy, when you go down there, you tell them. You tell them this is what we want to do. Not everybody's brave enough to come up here. I'm not real brave to come up here. But I can tell you what I want. And that's what I want. And that's what a lot of other people want too. I'm sorry if we spend money for machines. But I want to be happy. I want to be satisfied. And I want to know that my vote was counted. I'm going to go back and see. I appreciate y'all giving me the chance to come up here and say that. and I hope that you will take that into consideration. I'm sorry that we spend money for something, but I want to make sure that what we do is right. And I know there's a lot of flaws, and I can tell you, as we hear those things out on the street, our knees shake. We're scared. We're afraid. And not every one of y'all are gonna agree with me who I vote for. You're gonna vote for somebody different. You know what? That's okay. Because we each have the opportunity to choose the person we want. But I wanna make sure that the person I chose is the person on that piece of paper that I put into that box. And I wanna thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak. And please give that some thought. We really do want to write on a piece of paper. God bless you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else?
Kathy, I'm one of your, like you. I mean, I think there's an awful lot of us. I went into Schultz and Roten before we came to this last meeting, and every single person that worked there signed to say, we don't want machines, we want this all changed. It's just, like she said, we want to know what happened. We want to know, was my vote counted? I had people, when I was voting, hearing people argue, I want a paper ballot. You don't have it. Well, I want one. Where's my paper ballot? It's just, it is important. And, you know, why mess with a machine if it isn't already set up so it can be audited? Why are we going to spend a bunch more money, state money, federal money, to try to fix something that doesn't work right? And I know we've spent some money on it. I agree. But it's money. You know, we tried it. It doesn't work very well. And I know it's a lot easier for Ms. Warnick. They don't have to stay up. I remember, and y'all remember, some of y'all are as old as I am. Most of you are not, but remember we come on, they would be up here until 2 o'clock in the morning. Our secretary used to work in the clerk's office, and the clerks would be up here until 2 in the morning counting ballots. And if they were off, they start over. It's just the process that they went through. It was uncomfortable. It was a long couple of days, but it got done, and everybody was comfortable and knew that it was being done fairly because you had people watching it. You knew you could see, but I can't watch a machine and know whether it's working right. And then none of us can. Maybe the engineer could, but the rest of us can't. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling. And yes, it's convenient and it's comfortable, but you know, to me, the vote is so important in this country right now, particularly right now. We just can't afford to lose that. And I want to know that my vote was counted, even if it doesn't agree with everybody else's. It's just too critical for all of us. To get these people in office that we think are representing us, and y'all are doing that, and I appreciate you. I never really realized, because I didn't ever get to come to Commissioner's Court when I was working for the county, but y'all do an awful lot, and we're very appreciative. I mean, I had no idea how much work you're actually doing out in the community yourselves, and we do appreciate it, and Judge, all of y'all, you're very much appreciated, but you represent us. And there is a large number of us that really do not want to keep using these machines. Unless there's something that's auditable that we can afford to get, where we know there's a paper backup, where you can pull those papers and go, okay, this is not the same as what's in the machine. Then what are you going to do if it's not the same? If you find out the paper audit doesn't match, so what are you going to do? Go back and use it again, try to fix it? I appreciate your help, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for letting us come, and it's really important for the community that you make a good decision, because this doesn't need to be voted on for now at all, until we can get some of the questions. I ask that y'all would table it until further down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner, and Martha Warner for the record. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, I'll open the floor for discussion. Okay, commissioners, do we have any more? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Warnick, my apologies. Ms. Warnick.
Okay. And you may want to discuss first. I would like to address a couple of the issues that I've heard this morning. I know everybody wants their votes to count. I want everybody's votes to count. But I need to understand that all the processes are not being understood by everyone. And paper ballots does not guarantee your vote is counted. If your vote is not marked correctly, or your indication is being told, you lose that vote. And it's when people hand mark ballots, they do not do them correctly, the majority of them. So then it comes down to whoever's counting those ballots. If you're doing a hand ballot, do they agree with what you intended to be on that ballot? So there's just as much of a situation there than there would be in any kind of electronic. And I think the new version, it's not that the version we have now was not working. It's the law says they're trying to address the concerns of the citizens that they want a paper audit trail. And that is what the Verity Dual system will give them, is the Verity Dual. So in answer to a couple of the questions I heard this morning, I believe they came from Mr. Brown, about when can we get our equipment, et cetera, et cetera. I have an election in November for the constitutional amendment, the Skidmore bond election. Once that election is completed, I can back up that election, then our equipment can be sent to Hart as early as December. We'll have it back in January. So it'll take them about 30 days to complete it, okay? Once they ship the equipment back to us, that's when everything will take place as far as we will do an audit trail, we do acceptance testing on the equipment. Part of our bid from them is to have someone come in for 2 days, go through the equipment with us, make sure everything's working correctly, everything's received correctly. We do all those testings and stuff on that. It's called an acceptance test. So all of that can be done before we ever start primary. Where there was a couple of issues I could address to Dr. Presley right now, quickly, and then we can go back through whatever she has. Dr. Presley, envelope number 3, that is a judge's envelope. We would not have that. Those go to the judges if they want them. That's up to them. Envelope number 1 was given to y'all. We use a reconciliation to make that easy for our clerks and judges, our judges to be able to reconcile their records. So you did get them.
I didn't get the front of the envelope, and that's what I wanted. I didn't get the envelope itself, and that's what I asked for.
I did,
I'll give you the insert to the envelope, but not the envelope front and back.
one that says reconciliation on it is the envelope.
That's the cover of the envelope?
Yes, sir.
That sheet says it's to be included in the envelope.
Okay, we'll go over that then.
We should go over that.
Okay, just so you can make notes of what we have.
Okay.
You're asking about the memory sticks, your ballot and seal certificates that were provided to you, or the verification of those memory sticks?
Well, no, I asked for chain of custody form, not this seal.
That is our chain of custody form.
You have to start from the beginning of when it comes out of storage, when you program it, to the poll, the decision count, the storage.
You might want to look at those again, okay? The part about a zero tape not being signed, that I can't do anything after the fact on that. That was the judge's thing. So if they signed their closing, we were good on that. But a zero tape, if it wasn't signed, that should be done, I agree. And one out of all of those, during that time, was easy to do. Absentee ballots, you're talking about them starting at 351, those are programmed at Hart. So I can't guarantee this because I've never questioned that, but I'm sure that the first 350 were our test ballots and our, all of our test ballots that we did for that election. So that's probably why, but I can get the answer to that for you, okay? Your precinct election results, the reason they're not done like that, they are done based on the polling location because we are a countywide polling program.
That's on the law, there's a law for precinct.
Okay, well, I think you get precinct by precinct when you get your report, so that's,
This is at the poll.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then your audit log, you had a question about why the 2 different devices. The audit, we have upgraded this to 2.4 from 2.2 when that was done. And the audit log had to be run at Hart. That's where you got your second number. I have my election stored. I had to send it to them because I could not put that back in there to run it because it's been upgraded. So that's why you had 2 different devices. on the audit log.
So who's in control of that?
Sorry,
So who's in control of that? It has to be controlled by Hart?
just that particular time they did because we had done the upgrade. So maybe those, some of those will answer. Yes, that's because that's a scanned copy. I can print those copies and hand those to you. It's because it's scanned is why it looks fuzzy up there. And it's just the way, it's a gray area on the printout, and that's probably why you couldn't see the dates on them. And I'll be glad to make you copies of them. Okay? So I hope that'll answer some of those questions for you. Commissioners, did you have questions for me, in reference to the Hart bid or anything, and what it covers or why we're going that way, or what's on there?
I understand we've been accepted into a pilot program,
Yes, sir, we have.
which is good. Very few counties in Texas have been accepted into that, and we were one of the few.
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, I specifically called and asked to be part of that program. And the pilot program is to test, to make sure all of the audit processes are taught and they work for what they need to be. And the Secretary of State's office is the one that is going to be holding that and teaching us how to do those paper audit
And
trails.
it's also my understanding that when a person votes, there's also a paper trail produced that they can compare with their vote standing right there.
Yes.
And then those are compared at the end of the process to be sure everything is correct.
The current Hart Verity system, at the very end of your voting, you get a review screen that allows you to review, just like if you were looking at a piece of paper, saying, yes, did I mark this, did I mark this, is it the way I marked? If something's not the way you wanted it, you have the option to go back. That will still happen with Verity Duo. You will still, before you print your, have that review screen. And once you review it, your paper prints, you have that option to print. And at that point, your ballot has not been cast yet. It has not been counted yet.
Can I just say, you said you'll have the option to print, but that's not the case.
No, but before you have,
Everyone will print out.
before you print, you have the
Before
option
you-
to review.
Button,
Right.
You'll
Then you
have
print the
that
ballot.
paper.
You print the ballot, it comes out, you will review it, make sure it's the way you wanted it. If there's something wrong on that, all the voters have to do is tell them, I've made a mistake, or there's an error here. That can be spoiled, just like a paper ballot could be, and you can be given a new one, you can correct it before it goes over to the scanner.
So with that,
Just real quick, ma'am,
so
I'm
with
sorry,
that in
ma'am,
mind,
ma'am,
let me also
ma'am,
say-
hang on, it's okay, real quick. When the, after that piece of paper is printed out that shows what the voter voted on, and they've cast their ballot, that piece of paper, is retained, right? That physical piece of paper
That
is
physical
retained.
piece of paper, yes, sir, yes, Judge. That physical piece of paper, when they go and put it in the scanner,
Mhm.
it is exactly when they're casting their ballot, and it is retained.
So in order for the voter to cast the ballot, they fill it out electronically, it's printed out, they review it, make sure it's correct. If it's not correct, they go back and they do it again, and their last one is spoiled or destroyed or
That's
whatever.
correct. It's-
And then they take that piece of paper and they scan it into another machine that counts the ballot, and that piece of paper falls into a bin that holds every other vote in the county, and you retain those hard copies. You don't get rid of them.
That is correct. For the 22 months, we actually keep ours 24 months. We just do it because it's an even number of years.
And so the system only changes with respect to a full-on paper ballot versus this is, instead of me taking a number 2 pencil or a black or blue pen and filling in a circle or punching out a chat or doing whatever you do on different types of systems, the computer does that, and then it spits out your ballot, and then you scan your ballot in, which is the same thing that we did back when we did have paper ballots since the 90s. We would fill out a paper ballot, and then we would scan it into a machine which would count it, and we would retain those paper ballots. If there was any type of issue, we could go back and we could find that paper audit trail.
That is correct.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, people that are eligible for the absentee ballot by mail, which is age 65 or older, disabled, out of the county, they actually get a ballot to hand mark. And then those have to come back in, those what the early ballot board taken care of, and and then those are all scanned in also.
Okay.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
so you're telling me that we're actually going to get a paper ballot that flies out,
Yes, ma'am.
that we're gonna actually be able to touch?
That is
The last
correct.
time I voted, I went through the, expo center, and I punched a button.
That is correct.
Is that what we're gonna do?
No, you are gonna vote on the machine, but once your vote is there and you've reviewed it and it's the way you want it, the new system that we're asking to be upgraded to because of Senate Bill 598, that requires us to have a voter verifiable paper audit trail. When you get your codes punched into the machine like you did before with your code and got your ballot come up, you're also gonna get a piece of blank ballot paper, ballot paper, that when it goes in the machine, after you've done that and you say, okay, I'm ready, it's gonna come back out and you're gonna get to look at it. It's gonna have the ballot number printed on it, and you're gonna get to look at it and say, yes, that's what I wanted, and then you go and put it in a machine.
Okay, so the ones that we used at the expo center, did they spit out paper?
No, ma'am, not yet. What's what we're requesting to upgrade to.
But those were the ones that we did.
That is correct.
Okay, so we do want to get something that we actually have a piece of paper.
Yes, ma'am. Now, you don't have a piece of paper to walk out the door with, just
No.
like you wouldn't have when you hand marked a piece of paper. I just want that to be clear.
Okay, I just want one other thing, when we're talking about those, I can tell you that I can't even use my iPhone. So if I make a mistake on one of those ballots, and I want to go back,
We spoil it. You can spoil it to
okay,
three
you
ballots.
can spoil it, but how do I change this? Is there going to be somebody there to
Yes,
help
ma'am.
me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Anytime you have a question, all you have to do is ask the judge. Two judges, in a polling place by law, we have to have two judges there. Ours are co-judges because we're county-wide. We don't have a primary, a presiding, and an alternate. We have co-judges.
Okay, now, do we have a picture of what this looks like so our voters know what to expect?
I actually have literature in my office. When we did the presentation, the evening that we had the open house, the town hall meeting, they were here and actually demonstrated this system. I would love to bring them back and let, once we get them in, have a couple of open houses and let somebody come in and look at the system before you're ready to go.
Because I was very surprised going through the expo center and given an iPad.
Right.
And I was not happy with that. I don't know that I'm gonna be happy with this. Y'all have given me something to think about.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna think about it a bit.
Just so you know, the voting equipment that, did you come through the drive-through now?
To vote,
To vote?
expo?
Yes. Okay, so you came during early voting. Okay, first of all, the voting equipment handed to you is not an iPad. Okay, we check in on iPads, but it's an actual, and what we do is it sits on a machine, and because we were doing that, we were taking them off the machine, instead of you having to get out of your vehicle and go into that machine. Because of COVID, we were handing those to you in the car, you were voting, we wiped them clean, set them back on the machine, and let it count your vote.
Okay, well, I just did not feel that that was very, wise at the time. But y'all given me something to think about.
And
I made a decision.
And I think it's the same thing that you're saying, that you want to be able to verify. You want to look at that piece of paper and verify that what you wanted is on that piece of paper. And I really feel like the way that they have designed this, and please understand, the Verity Duo system is not brand new just now. It's been in effect for a while. But nothing required us to use that until this new law has passed. And now we have to do something with our equipment to make it in compliance.
Ma'am, can you tell me, if it's not supposed to be, cannot connect to the internet or any connectivity whatsoever,
Yes.
how do you get your vote out of it?
How do we?
To send anywhere?
We take the V drives out, and they go to a count station, which is a system that completely tabulates, it's a tabulating machine. That is not hooked up to the internet either. For me to get those reports off there, I actually have to print those reports and take them to a computer to report those to the Secretary of State. Nothing can be taken back and forth.
So you take it completely out of the computer,
Yes,
like the rest of them that are there,
sorry.
like the rest of them card in there, taking that out and putting it somewhere else.
To an air gap.
And then it's, like I said, I'm not worried about things that happen here, but once you let go of that, it can happen, and there's no way that I can say that my vote really counted.
Let me ask you this, then, if that's a concern, when you had your paper ballot, and you marked it, and you went and put it in that silver box, and you left, how did you know your vote got counted then? There you go. That's,
We have poll
that's
watchers,
what
we have poll watchers that follow this stuff down to where.
not every. You can, but that doesn't mean it got counted.
Every state, the activity that's going on that, we should have poll watchers.
Ms. Warren, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions in the audience? I know this is a very relaxed structure, but that's okay. Yes, Dr. Presley.
Here's one question. My favorite election record is the audit log. And there, I gave y'all the report from 2010 from the University of California, Berkeley, why these logs are so important. And the log said this morning, we're supposed to print a copy of that audit log after the election's over and all the devices that you put in. But I don't think you have a copy of it.
I do not have a copy of it because mine was electronic. My copy was saved in our permanent in a record that was electronically, and when we got breached, I lost my copy. That's why I had to have hard print it.
But the administrative code says you are to print and keep the records for 22 months. That's what it says about the audit log. So when the audit log is printed, 10 months later, you've now lost chain of custody of the audit log, because it should have been printed the night of November 3rd. But we didn't get it. It was printed September 14th, 2021. So that is a security issue, and I think moving forward, we need to make sure that you do print a copy of the audit log and keep it for 22 months in case it gets modified later, you have a record. So that was a big concern. That audit log is one of the most important records of the election. We don't have it in B County for November 20th.
Anything further? Any other?
I have one more comment, if I may.
Yes, sir, Mr. Brown.
You mentioned that, y'all talked about having two different servers, and the second one you said was, did you say updated? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Mr. Brown, our equipment, after the November, we did an upgrade from 2.2 to 2.4. And so when I did that, I had to, save all my elections into another section of my system. So once that was done that, I could not put those elections back in there because it was on a different version, 2.2 to 2.4. Okay, so when Dr. Presley's right, the audit log that I could not locate, I asked Hart to print for me so that I could comply with your request to provide you with an audit log. So that's what it is. That's where she's talking about two different servers.
Yes.
And it's not a server, it's a count station.
I'm
It's
sorry?
a count station, it's the tabulating count system.
And there's no way that you can know what was done by heart to that information.
It's step by step, it tells you exactly what was done. So I don't know how much more accurate.
There's no way I can know.
I can know by looking at the audit report. I can look at the audit report and tell you who was the last person signed in, what was done, et cetera, et cetera. So I can look at that and tell you.
That's all, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any other questions in the gallery? Are there any questions or comments?
Judge, Commissioner, I just hope that Mr. Brown and his group would have the utmost confidence in this court that we'll do the best that we can. We research it, we listen to all of our constituents throughout the county, not just the group that shows up here. We listen to phone calls, we go to different places of work, we talk to a lot of people. You're heard, and so is everybody else. So you have the faith in this court to do what we do best here and move forward with this. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions for Ms. Warnitz? Yes, sir. You need to identify yourself too for the record, please.
Mike Keeney.
Mr. King, please proceed.
I worked for a few decades for IRS, for Homeland Security, for the U.S. Department of Treasury, et cetera, et cetera. All over the place in terms of different countries and different, I traveled extensively. The only two states I didn't travel to in this country officially. And, there were a lot of problems frequently with something that's auditable. Auditable means it must be 100% auditable, not 99% auditable. This last election, I realized that there was an oversight, there was an upgrade, I understand that, extremely well. I have to deal with massive computer issues. And so that's, and I accept that. But the thing is you cannot bypass steps, and I'm not convinced that you have a 100% auditable system at this point in time, that Hart has one. And there are anomalies like that, and I have to get too far into the weeds to even discuss it. Because, and I'll just tell you one little story. There was a Internal Revenue Service a long time ago, and I was much younger, and we had a running argument about the security of tax refunds and checks being issued and the service centers. And I was convinced that there were ways of getting around it because they had an audit trail, an audit mechanism that could be manipulated by a super user. And Sean Ball, I was always losing the argument there, and I said, oh, no, it's impossible, because they designed the system, and I thought it was perfect. Well, guess what? There was by coincidence, there was a young man who was carrying a briefcase one day, waiting for a bus. He had a pair of blue jeans on, he had a type of sneakers on, and he also had a blue shirt. Well, as it turned out, that fit the description of somebody who had robbed the bank an hour earlier. And so the police stopped, they talked to him and everything, and they opened up his briefcase, and they found more than 100 government checks in it. And it had nothing to do with anything that the bank had. So they let him go, and they immediately called the Inspector General for the Austin Service Center. And they immediately issued got a search warrant, et cetera. They went to his house, they got a hold of him, they discovered those 100 checks. But he discovered a way of manipulating the system because the system was not complete. It was not 100% auditable. And there are other examples of that. But again, don't get too tied into this because getting an auditable transaction is very difficult. It's a hard programming job to do because it must be documented. There must be no holes. There must be a complete record, and there are no exceptions. And at a certain point, I was a super user for IRS to clean out something done under very exceptional circumstances, but there are extremely tight rules that I helped to write. And so I think that's a major vulnerability. I think that's something that needs to be looked at very carefully, and it's certainly nothing that you control, but you really need to use a lot of due diligence because otherwise, you could be 6 months down the road, and it could dawn on people in Austin, and guess what? You're going to go right back to the drawing board.
And to that comment, I'm going to tell you this, I'm not the expert, but the experts at the election service centers, that has been gone through, it has been tested, it has been approved by the Secretary of State, and I have to place my trust in the Secretary of State because that's who guides me.
And
Thank you, Commissioner.
it's a very strong possibility they've overlooked something.
I heard when you were talking just a minute ago, I heard the word breached. Our system hasn't been breached.
Our county was breached.
Our county was breached.
So, yeah.
I'll let the judge answer that one.
So the county does have our, I don't know how you say it, but, our technology is connected to the internet. We use, every county employee that has a computer or has use of a computer has a county email. And just like thousands of other entities, there was a virus email that was sent to a county employee. The county employee, and this is, we know after the fact, had accessed it through something called virtual private network, which meant that when they closed it out, it was all gone. This is getting a little technical even for me to talk about. But basically, long and short of it is your cell phones. I mean, we hear about these breaches all the time. That it was a direct connection to the internet, and what happened was they came in just like with so many other entities, and they locked down a certain portion of our data that was available. we were able to recoup some of that data, and fortunately for us, although it did hobble us for a short bit of time, it wasn't as damaging as we saw with like the pipeline or Sony or some of those other breaches that have happened in the past. And a lot of that has to do with the level of security and the protections that we already had in place from our IT department, being aware of these types of issues and knowing that when it comes to technology that's on the internet where people can access you, and that's why it's so important. I think when people start talking about voting and electronic voting machines, that's why they make such a huge issue out of it not being connected to the internet, is because once you do connect there, it's not necessarily a matter of if, but a matter of when. And so the result of that is, and we were real fortunate. I don't know where the recommendation came from. It was done several years prior to me being on Commissioner's Court, but we have insurance. The county pays for insurance for cybersecurity attacks, and so thankfully we had that. So with Texas Association of Counties, we were able to obtain legal counsel that this is what they do, not only negotiating to recover data, but also guiding entities like us through the process and how do we move forward when we suffer an attack like that. We also, as a part of that, we were able to retain a cybersecurity expert firm, a forensic company who was able to go in and come in behind the scenes and do that, teenager in the basement type techno stuff to get a better understanding of exactly what happened, who it was. They were able to determine who the threat actors actually were, where it came out of, even though it was pinged around the world, and where that data ultimately was deposited. Funnily enough, of the data that they took from D County, it was 99% was public anyway, if not all of it. Not to say that it's not bad that it got out, but they got data that was public. The downside was some of the data that they did get, some of the files were files that the different departments in the county actually use on a day-to-day basis. And losing access to that meant that they had to go back and take their older versions that weren't impacted, their paper versions, and recreate. And so fortunately for us, our insurance covered those recoupment expenses, the expenses to get us back up and running. And the long and short of it is, as a result of that, the hard recommendation from the cybersecurity experts and the strong recommendation from the law firm and the strong representation from our insurance representative with Texas Association of Counties. And when I say strong, I mean, if you want to continue to be able to obtain cybersecurity insurance, this is what you have to do. And we did. So we ended up making a substantial investment in a different cybersecurity threat actor prevention program from what we had before, which was a robust program. We used Avast before, and now we're using Microsoft Defender ATP. And I can tell you the implementation process of that, and actually Mr. Parkman, who's in our audience today, he can probably speak to it a lot more succinctly than I can. The rigor of that program has required substantial efforts on behalf of our IT department to actually get all of our systems up and running, to modernize them. There were some interesting positives that came out of this. We actually ended up being able to upgrade all of our systems at once into a more modern operating system, that if we didn't have to go through this additional and substantial expense, we would have had a greater expense to bring those older machines up. So you may know, like Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, whatever it is. So we were able to make that jump, and I don't know that we're 100% complete with the implementation process. Like, it is very complicated, but that's my long explanation to your question. I think I don't know at this point in time if it's even responsive.
You've had a lot of clarity. So this was ransomware. Did they encrypt anything?
Did they, yes, they
They encrypted it, and they wouldn't let you have the keys, unless you paid. Did you pay them anything?
no,
Good.
no, we did not.
Good.
We saw no value to that. And I can tell you, this commissioner's court believed very strongly that our money was best used in fixing the issue, not kowtowing to some silly demand from the
There'll be no
Bulgarian.
answer if you do.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yeah. Okay. Machines, and I'd like to say, comments that have been made, both from members of the public, from my fellow commissioners today, that we appreciate everybody's input and interest, and as when matters of political interest become hot, more of a hot button issue, it's always interesting to see how that's going to play out. And I'd like to thank everybody that presented to the county today for having the gumption to stand up and tell us what it is that you think, for the professional and neutral manner in which you advocated on behalf of your opinions and beliefs. And I'd like to thank as well Ms. Warnitz for the efforts that she's made over the course of the last several months to provide answers to questions that individuals in the public have. And I would again encourage anybody that has questions, concerns, you can, of course, you can always go through the formal process. And if you need a bunch of data, like Dr. Presley is looking into, there's the formal Texas Open Meetings, or I'm sorry, the public FOIA request or the public records request process. But it's not necessarily the route that you need to take. So if you do have questions, if you do have concerns, if you do have things that you've identified that are problems, please reach out to Mrs. Warnick's office. One of the reasons, and again, this predates me, so I hope I'm not misstating this, but one of the reasons that Ms. Warnick and the Elections Administration Office is present in B County is to provide that point of contact for somebody to be able to communicate with an individual who her sole role and job is making sure that our elections are safe and secure, that every vote that is cast is counted, to provide clarity and to educate and to receive complaints and to address those complaints and to address those issues and bring them to the Commissioner's Court. The free sharing of information and ideas only makes a community better. And so thank you all very much for sharing your opinions and beliefs and interests today. Are there any other discussion? I think, and I understand that there's a number of people that that have concerns about this. I feel very much more comfortable knowing that when you vote, that the voting system has this paper ballot component. This I don't know what the term is. It's not a paper ballot. I guess that's a mistake.
It's called voter verifiable,
That's
paper audit trail.
not put together by a marketer.
VVA.
Yeah.
It's a hybrid ballot.
Right, okay, thank you, yeah. So where we can actually print it out and have hold on to a piece of paper and look and see that there is a piece of paper that says we have a vote. And I recognize there's no guarantee. I think, Texas has quite the history with respect to fraud when it comes to paper ballots, right? Quite the history. In a few counties over from here. So there, at the end of the day, the security of our voting in this nation comes down to individuals like Mrs. Warnick's. It comes down to the individuals who we have to place trust in to make decisions, to make difficult decisions for us, to lead us through that process and to be our watchdogs. And it takes members of the public to make sure that our individuals that are charged with these tasks, that they do that, and that they execute their duties fully and completely. And I think at some point in time, I know it's not comfortable for some folks, but we have to be able to trust. We have to be able to trust that Ms. Warnick has the right the right frame of mind and the right motivations to be in the position that she's in. We have to be able to trust that the Texas Secretary of State has the right motivations and the right positions to guide and provide input and assistance to the counties in executing our obligations with respect to voting. We have to trust that the vetting process that the Texas Attorney General's office and other state agencies have done with these various voting mechanisms and machines, we have to be able to trust at some point in time that they are doing things properly and completely. And we have to have ability, like Dr. Presley is doing, to be able to challenge that as a member of the public, to be able to stand up and say, yeah, I understand everything you're saying, but I still want to know more. That's valuable and that's important, and it's important for the process. We're always going to be in conflict. That's an indication of good government. But all that being said, this change that's proposed, one, it brings us closer back into line to where we were for the majority of my life growing up in B County, where you vote on electric machine. I'm sorry, you vote by hand, and then you run it through a tabulator, and that's your vote. That brings us a lot closer back to that original place where we were before, and it provides us with additional that technology does provide, and for assurances that our voters that may have a shaky hand or that may not understand completely filling a circle with ink or with a number 2 pencil, all these other things. We think about the presidential election between Bush and Gore and the hanging chads. I don't think B County ever used a chad system or a punch-out system, but we certainly have voters have not had their votes counted in the past because they failed to accurately and fully fill out their paper ballot, and so it's an evolution over time of trying to continue to address those issues, and B County is no different. B County started moving in the direction that it started moving 5 to 7 years ago to provide greater ability and flexibility for voting. Some of what happened in November 2020, I understand the concerns about the drive-through voting. It's easy to think about it now and to have problems with it, but if you remember what it was like back in November 2020 in B County, and I think this is a true statement, I guess I should say that during early voting, could people vote in person or did they have to vote in the car?
The first week was all drive-through for anyone that didn't feel comfortable coming in. The last 2 weeks was inside.
Okay, so you had the option of doing either or. It was the same, and I understand how foreign it seemed. I also know that it was a convenience that many of our B County residents that voted early, that generally vote early, they liked it because it was convenient. It was more convenient. But I can also tell you, Texas law has changed, so that won't be occurring again. Okay, so
Judge, also, Ms. Warnick, aren't you also looking for volunteers or some of the people,
Anybody
Mr.
that
Hunt or Ms. Warnick, or you're always looking for somebody to come and work the polls or precincts?
Let me say this, Commissioner, thank you for bringing that up. First of all, we don't use volunteers for judges and clerks. They actually get paid and stuff, and I'm always looking for judges and clerks. If you want to be a poll watcher, just go through the formation and have somebody certify you to come in. You are welcome. My door is always open. If anyone has any questions, please call me. I am there. Please come to our public logic and accuracy testing so you can see the equipment.
when is that happening again?
It is October the 6th
Okay, at what time?
at 10 o'clock
And where?
in my office.
In the elections building?
Yes, sir. And we will be exempted. That is for the November election. Now, let me say, that is based on today's equipment that we are using right now.
Okay,
So
so
why-
it's not gonna be a description of
No,
what
but
we're
once
considering right now?
if the court approves for us to move forward and we do upgrade the equipment, I will hold several open houses with demonstrations for that equipment for some people come by and look at it before they vote in the primary.
And when is the primary
We
scheduled?
do not know yet, sir. I have,
When do we think? Is it gonna be March
let me
timeframe?
tell you what it is.
It's an issue too that the state is
Okay.
having, yeah.
If the new maps are done by November the 15th, the primary election will be March 1st. I'll give you a copy of this, Commissioner, because there's several. November the 16th through the 28th, the primary election will be April the 5th. And if the maps are done December the 29th through February the 7th, the primary will not be till May 24th.
So best case scenario, it's in March. And,
That's our normal date. That's
and you're
what it
saying
is.
we can have at least a couple,
Yes, sir.
informational sessions on these new
Yes.
machines. We'll have time when
Yes.
if we vote for them. When they arrive in January, if we approve this, then we'll have the opportunity to have a couple. And will you put notice of that?
Yes,
Can we
sir.
do it can we put it in the newspaper?
We'll put it in the newspaper, we'll do some radio spots, anything that we can do. I mean, if anybody wants to just call and say, is it in, or is this what we're doing, if it's voted in and stuff, then we'll get it out there as much as we can and stuff. So we'll have them set up a fake election on it so that you can come in. We might get you reelected or something, Jeff.
Well, I really am so uncomfortable with that phrase. Mr. Brown?
We have Justice Court.
Yes, sir.
And Mrs. Warnick, can you give us an idea of what all this is gonna cost? Good.
It's gonna cost the county zero if we met our date because it's reimbursed. But the actual bid to upgrade the equipment, have it here, sir. Oh. Mixed up in my papers here. Is, $2,400, $242,339.
And how,
240,
242,
yes, sir.
basically in change, yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. And the original cost of what we have now is,
Mr. Brown, don't get me to store it. I can get you an exact figure, but I want to say it was around 350. And just so you know, we have, in our equipment, we have 41 touch, which is the regular actual voting machine. We have 16 accessible units for the handicap. And then we have 15 controllers. So that's what will be upgraded, and we have 2 scanners.
thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Warnick.
Welcome.
Anything further? You do have a motion and a second on the floor. There's no further discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all again. Moving on. Agenda item number 17, approve request to upgrade Vista Premium contract for the B County Elections Office, tabled from the September 13th, 2021 regular term meeting. This agenda item was tabled. I believe Commissioner Haggard, you wanted to be able to review the contract a little bit more closely.
I'm fine with it. We can go ahead and vote on it at this point.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve is presented.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Ms. Warren, for being willing to discuss that.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, the court's going to take a 5-minute recess.
Judge,
Time? Yeah.
before that, I'd like to make a comment. And I think you noticed 2 of the 4-Hers just walked out.
Uh-huh.
I want to comment on them. They hung in here for everything that's going on. So this shows you what your youth of today are involved in.
That's
Because
wonderful.
they hung around here to listen to all of this and to take in everything that was said. And I just want to comment on that.
No, thank you, Commissioner. That's a great point.
And I'd like their names, I'd like to give them for student clerks.
One is Ms. Brown, and I don't just.
Addie Brown, I know.
I don't know. I'm sure we can find that out.
The time is 10:51. We are in recess for 5 minutes. We're on.
Let me just start. Okay, you want us to turn that off?
Yeah,
We're
live. Okay, thank you. The time is 11:04. We are back, and we're going to go back to our agenda. We're back in session, and I'm going to make one little change. I'm going to move agenda item number 20 next. So agenda item number 20, approve resolution approving submission of grant application for Operation Lone Star fiscal year FY 2022-2023, number 4369701. Do you have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chief Deputy Jones? You good?
This is in response to the declaring disaster. The governor's allotted some funds, so we're applying.
Excellent, wonderful, thank you.
This is as a result of the court declaring it out.
Yes.
So we're getting some, fringe benefits on
Yes,
this.
sir.
On the, this is the immigration, dealing with
Immigration code, disaster.
Several $100,000.
Put in for $645,000.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
May include personnel.
Thank you, sir. That's good job.
I'll let you know.
Well,
Please
hopefully,
do.
yes,
Good
please
job.
let
Thank
us
you,
know.
Jeff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Returning to our regularly scheduled agenda, agenda item number 18, approve improvements to 0.37 acres of B County property and mineral at no cost to B County. Have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner DeWitt, you have the floor.
What we have, and I alluded to this during my opening comments about the 0.37 acres. What I'd like for the court to approve, and I include this in my motion, we have a parking area now that the buses from Pawnee are using, and the students and the teachers and the parents are picking up their kids, one thing or another. It's semi-improved. I've talked to Orsted, to Ms. Stein, because of the time element involved, they're agreeable to make additional improvements to that property for parking. And what I'd like for the court to do is allow our road and bridge administrator, Ms. Stein, to come up with whatever it is they're gonna do, is his approval and his design, and, at no cost to B County. That would be my motion.
I like the no cost part.
Yes.
So would this be like a asphalt or concrete? or-
That'd be up to the,
We would
Mr.
have to-
Gonzalez and Ms. Stein to determine
together
exactly, see what we can work out with them.
That's great. So they're gonna provide the materials?
They're gonna turnkey it. I would like for the court just to leave it in Mr. Gonzalez's hands. He knows what's needed there and what can be done. He can weigh the benefits and back and forth with Ms. Stein, and they can get it done. When it's done, we can bring it back to the court, give them due appreciation.
Okay, so your motion to
To grant Mr. Gonzalez the authority to work directly with Orsted and Ms. Stein and do what's necessary to improve that property and.
And you amend your second.
I'll amend my second.
Okay. Who's got the second? Who do you have, Hope?
Haggard.
Mr. Haggard. Sorry, Commissioner Lenny.
Sorry. Go do the next.
Little slow, buddy.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without objection. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Commissioner DeWitt, for working that out.
Yes, sir.
Agenda item number 19, American Rescue Plan ARP status and projects. Commissioner DeWitt, or?
Let me move to approve. We might make this just a information item, but let's do a motion to approve so we can comment.
Okay,
Move to approve.
I've got a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. I've got a second.
Okay. Right now, we do not have any approved projects from GrantWorks, but we are due to meet with them this week. The committee is due to meet with them this week. You've all been provided with a current list of what we came up with. This came from the court meeting, the last one, Judge, and the court approved all these. We've added one at the bottom about solar powered message board to assist in directing traffic. Looking at these, what we asked them to do was look down this list before we go into a whole lot of work to move forward on anything, and see. We're going to have a committee meeting after this and set up some times and dates to meet with them. And I guess my question to the court would be, once we get this one and this one are approved, would the court want to have a special meeting or wait until the next regular meeting to discuss it?
We have the funds.
We have the funds, they're in the bank.
50% of the funds.
It's in the bank.
don't mind calling a special called meeting. I can do it, mid-morning, early afternoon.
Oh, we're fully aware you don't mind calling.
Yes, we need a special called meeting.
Several, in fact.
Judge.
Oh, God.
Yes.
I'm open on Saturday.
We wouldn't want to have all our county personnel have to come in.
Let me leave it like this. When we get the information, I can confer with the judge, and he will make a determination at that time as to whether to call the meeting.
Thank you.
We'll see what the urgency and what the time element is that urgent.
Okay.
So with that, I think I'll withdraw my motion because this is more of a discussion item, but I would like to have this placed on the agenda from now on every time. That way it'll be there and we won't have to keep.
Absolutely. We'll put it with, just like we did with COVID. We'll drop it in so we just have a standing
Yes,
agenda.
and it'll be discussion and action in case there is something comes up at the last minute.
And before we move on, I would like to thank our committee members. I know y'all been working, and our former committee members. I know everybody's put a lot of time and effort into this, and I really like the work that y'all done. So thank you. I do appreciate it.
And then to add on to that, this is not a final list. So if the commissioners or a department head or an ex-committee member has an idea, get it to one of the committee members, we'll add it to the list.
That's a great idea. Yeah, and in the community too can reach out to you. I mean, that's,
Yes. And I shared this list with the city when they were here this morning. They took a picture of it. So
Oh, excellent. Okay, great.
thank you. The motion's withdrawn.
Motion's withdrawn. Anything further on this item? Okay, we'll move on then. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 24. Approve recommendation from the Policy Formulation Committee to update section 8.06 military leave policy of B County Policy Handbook. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve with a comment.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Commissioner DeWitt, you have a quick comment?
Yes, I totally agree with what we're doing. The one thing that I would like for the committee to go back and look at, and I speak from experience, I was in the enlisted reserves. I know how this works. I know how the state took care of us whenever we were called to active duty. What I would like to do, and from what I understand, we may only have one or two either National Guard or enlisted reserve people working for B County. If they're called in for active duty, maybe they have to go to the border, or there's a disturbance, or there's a hurricane for the National Guard. Right now, the only thing we're covering is their 2 weeks of training, required training, and that's required by law that we cover that 2 weeks. My concern is, let's say that Mr. Willow's in the enlisted reserves, he's called up to conflict in Iraq for 6 months. Okay, there's nothing in our policy that protects him except for his job. We're required to have a job when he gets back, to protect him on his insurance, his family, or anything else as far as their salaries. And I would like for the committee to take a hard look at that, to see if maybe there's something we need to do. I want to encourage these folks to continue their National Guard or enlisted reserve service. Something we can do, because right now, if they're called up, they have to use their annual leave and their sick leave, and once that's gone, it's gone. Not sick leave, their comp time and their annual leave. And when it's gone, it's gone. And let's say they only have 30 days of annual leave and sick leave, and they're called up for 2 months. They're going to go a month without insurance. Their family's not going to have income, because unless military pay has changed, I was an E5, I was a Spec 5. It's not, you can't make a living off of it if you're enlisted. So that's what I would like to see, is the committee go back and take a look at adding something in there that helps protect our employee if they're called to active duty for more than the 2 weeks required for training every year. Well, no, we can, we can go ahead with what we're doing now, but I just want the committee to take a look at it.
I think that's an interesting point. Hi, Mr. HR Director. I understand exactly what you're saying, Commissioner. You kind of want to do.
Yes.
And that's something definitely I'm sure the committee can go back and look and see what we can do about that. But for the sake of this here, of course, is House Bill 1589,
Yes.
and it's just a revision they're doing here, effective September 1st. We already have in our policy the National Guard and the Active Reserve, but we have to now include Texas Military Forces into that. So that's why you see the terminology has changed, and they're given 7 days rather than the 15 days for the other armed forces. But we can do that.
Thank you. Do you have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen.
And thank you, Commissioner. If you've never been there, you don't realize how important it is, because you don't have a choice when you're called up. You get a set of orders, you're gone. That's it.
be interested to see what the committee can come back with. Yeah. Agenda item number 25, approve Guardian subscription plan membership renewal agreement between D County and Halo Flight.
Move to approve as presented.
I've got a motion, do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second, discussion?
Yes, one thing,
Yes, sir.
I would be sure that everybody understands that all of the employees' family is covered by this also. It's not just employee.
Yes, sir. At orientation, they are, it's mentioned to them that
Okay.
it's not just them, but it's anybody that's their immediate family living under their roof.
Okay, good.
Of course, if their children have Medicaid, I think Medicaid is a different program for those individuals, so they are covered in a different way.
Good, thank you. Way ahead of.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 26, approve fiscal year 2022-2023 Texas Association of Counties Risk Management Pool Workers' Compensation Renewal.
Move to approve with a comment.
We've got a motion, do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second to approve. Commissioner DeWitt, you have a comment?
Looking through this, elected officials are not covered, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Workers' comp, yes, unemployment, no.
Okay, is this workers' comp?
This is workers' comp, sir.
Okay, I didn't see them checked. Maybe I missed it.
You hold on.
I'm looking on 26.A where it says only complete if making changes to current.
Oh, yes, sir. On that there, we're not checking any of those, because if you look on, we're just elected,
Okay,
it says that if we're gonna make changes, we'll check those boxes. If
Okay.
not, it'll stay the same.
so elected officials are covered.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. They are
Because we
covered.
have some constables and JPs that they get into it sometimes with people, and we need to be sure they're
Yes, sir,
covered.
the court on there, and we have the volunteer law enforcement and election workers, not employees.
Good, thank you. I thought we'd done that, but I misread it. Thank you.
No problem.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Agenda item number 27, update, discussion, and possible action regarding D County COVID-19 preparedness and contingency planning. Mr. Willow?
I had a wardrobe malfunction, sorry.
Not
Like-
as exciting as the
No,
other.
I'm not
I don't hear any music or anything.
Or swearing.
Mike Mcmullen, COVID-19 mitigation. First, some very good news. We have, testing now at the Expo Center again. We have a different group, that did not want the county to pay for them to be there. They volunteered to come down here and conduct PCR tests, saliva tests, or PCR tests, cheek swabs. No out-of-pocket cost, because nothing is free. Insurance, the company asks that you bring they will bill the insurance. If you do not have insurance, there is a special fund set aside by the state of Texas, and your Texas driver's license or Texas ID would go and pay for the testing that way. If you have children that don't have a test, and that's the question you brought up, a child that doesn't have an ID card, they would use the parent's ID card. So, that's the good news. Now for the rest of the news with the COVID front, more good news, we're down to 16 people in the hospital. COVID ranges from the ages of 30 to over 80. And supposedly we have 293 active cases in B County. And I could not get onto the CDCJ website to find out how
many
they had. So I don't have a good number for that. But unfortunately, our numbers of people who passed away from COVID in B County is 100. So since July 4th to today, we've had over 33% of the deaths in that small period of time. So,
Is there any data on the vaccinated, like the vaccinated or unvaccinated?
5% in the hospital, which is all I got, 5% that are in the hospital is vaccinated. So that's probably just one person in the hospital.
Correct. And that percentage number has fluctuated a little bit over the course of the last 2 months when
Yes.
this last COVID crisis really did it.
Yeah. finding is that people with COVID that have been vaccinated have not gone into the ICU. They've come back and gone back out, with less, volatile symptoms, I guess is a good way to say it. So, but, we're not winning the war, because lo and behold, there's another variant out there. So in about 2 months, we'll see what happens, which is my unprofessional guess when we'll see another, spike.
Where in the county, Mr. Willow, if somebody wanted to get vaccinated, where in the county right now could they go?
They can go to H-E-B, Walmart, Walgreens. Even, I believe, if they go to the hospital for something else, and if they find out they're not vaccinated and they want it, the hospital might have some vaccines left to give.
TLC also?
I don't know if TLC is giving vaccine anymore. I don't know, I'll check on that. I know they are doing testing there. You know, but as far as the vaccine front, I don't know.
Mr. Willow, I also understand that the flu shot is now available at the pharmacies also.
Yes. Okay, I'll be honest, I hadn't even looked at flu, but I'll put that on my radar.
We got ours last week, so I think it's there.
Okay, that means I'm,
And I've heard that you can get both COVID and if they want to get both at the same time, they can.
okay,
COVID and.
the flu shot. Now, the CDC has elected to, approve the dose of the vaccine, the booster, as you will, for folks 65 and older, or with people that are, that have circumstances, diabetes, overweight, just like in the beginning. And also people that have high contact and high risk of being, subjected to the COVID. And on the news, I even heard them say school teachers, because it's hard, you know, for especially the ones that can't be vaccinated. So they're also authorized. And again, the only thing you have to have is your vaccine card to show you've had your first and second dose, and then they'll give you your third dose.
At the same places as the pharmacy.
Yes, yes.
It's my understanding, according to an individual I talked to, that H-E-B and Walgreens, 6 months, and Walmart is saying 8 months. Now, why there's a difference, I don't know, but that's what I was told yesterday.
If there is a difference, it's probably corporate ruling.
It could be, but that's what I was told. Because he was gonna get his at Walmart, and they said, no, it's gotta be 8 months, and he went to H-E-B, and it was 6 months. So that's.
Yeah, I'm more than certain it's probably corporate.
Just anecdotal information.
Any other questions? Again, our hotline is open. We're answering calls from different folks about the, new, company at the Expo Center. You do not need to make, a reservation. They're open on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 3. They're under the pavilion, just like they were before. We're working closely with Wally and, to make sure we're not overstepping any issues like we had an issue at one time with the food distribution.
Right.
So, these guys are ecstatic that they're actually in the shade. You know?
And have we gotten that information out, I guess, on the new app, and did we put it out on the telephone system?
Yes, we did. And
They did a very good job on it. Had everything you need to know was in that one little. So, would it be beneficial? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's probably on the BOE and Facebook page.
Yes, sir.
But do we want to put that information
Yes.
up on the B County website page?
We can, we can
We
do
can
that.
do a separate one. The way that IT is tied into Facebook with the county page, when you open it up, I have it pinned to the top. So whatever shows on the Facebook page at the very top will show on the county page. One of them, I don't know if it's our direct page or if it's the main page, but it is both on both sides.
Sounds great. You've exceeded my technical abilities in one sentence. Does anybody have any questions about that process?
Yeah.
And TLC is giving shots.
Thank you, Mr. Any further discussion? Okay. We do not have any executive session items. We move on to agenda item number 28, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'd like to take this off. No.
I have something like this.
All in favor, please approve. Aye. Right, all opposed? Motion passes without exception. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
The ARP committee is gonna have a quick meeting.
Oh, excellent. We will clear out. Give you the room.
Not a problem. No secrets on our part.
And I'm just gonna make the language track